Emily Porter sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the muted morning sunlight peeking through the drapes. The hum of suburban life outside her window, chirping birds, distant lawnmowers, couldn't drown out the silence inside her home. Her husband, Jason, had already left for work, like he did every day at 6:45 a.m. sharp. No goodbye kiss. No. Have a good day. Just the quiet thud of the front door shutting behind him. Their marriage, once a vibrant, passionate storm, had become nothing more than a forecast of repetition. Jason wasn't cruel or abusive, he was just absent. Absorbed by his job, consumed by his schedule. He provided, sure. But he no longer saw her. Emily, 32, had once believed in forever. She remembered the first time Jason introduced her to his boss, Matthew Carter. It had been at a holiday party 2 years ago. Matthew was everything Jason wasn't, charismatic, attentive, and genuinely interested in people. Where Jason's words felt like invoices, short, transactional. Matthew's felt like handwritten letters. Their paths started crossing more frequently when Jason asked Matthew if Emily could take on part-time work at their firm's new events division. Emily needed a distraction. A hobby. Something to feel useful again. Matthew agreed, eagerly, and perhaps too eagerly. Chapter 2: Eyes That Saw Too Much. Emily started working 2 days a week, helping organize conferences, marketing events, and internal celebrations. She hadn't felt that kind of purpose in years. And every meeting, every shared coffee break with Matthew became a highlight. He listened. Really listened. "You're not just Jason's wife to me," he told her once after a client call. "You're smart, capable, and wasted in the background." That was the first time he touched her hand. A casual brush of fingers. But it lingered too long to be accidental. And she didn't pull away. Weeks passed, and the tension grew. Stolen glances. Words laced with deeper meaning. Emily would return home feeling more alive than she had in years, only to be met with Jason's distant routine. Dinner eaten in silence. Eyes glued to his phone or laptop. And the growing sense that he had no idea who she was anymore. The guilt gnawed at her. But the loneliness was louder. Chapter 3: The First Lie. It was a Thursday when it finally happened. Matthew invited her to a post-event dinner, just the two of them, to celebrate their team's success. She wore a navy blue dress that Jason hadn't complimented in over 3 years. Matthew noticed instantly. "You look breathtaking," he said, his voice rough with restraint. Dinner was wine and conversation. Laughter and longing. The restaurant dimmed to a whisper as they stepped outside into the cool night air. Matthew offered her his coat. And then, under the canopy of streetlights and stars, he kissed her. She didn't resist. She leaned in. When she got home that night, Jason was asleep on the couch, TV remote on his chest. Emily stared at him, the man she. It didn't stop there. The next time was at his apartment. Then again, at a business trip under the guise of logistics. And again, in his office after hours. Each time more intense than the last. Emily had never felt so seen, so wanted, so alive. Matthew spoke about dreams. About what life could be like. He wasn't just her lover. He became the reminder of everything she'd lost in her marriage: intimacy, adventure, attention. And he wasn't hiding it. He started texting her during work hours. Touching her arm when Jason walked by. Whispering things in her ear with a smirk. Emily warned him. "We have to be careful." But Matthew was a man who got what he wanted. And now he wanted her. The affair became harder to hide. Jason started noticing small things: Emily's late arrivals, her distant gaze at dinner, the scent of cologne that wasn't his. One evening, as she folded laundry on the couch, he looked up from his phone and asked, "Are you seeing someone?" Emily froze. "No," she replied, almost too quickly. "Why would you ask that?" He stared at her. "You've changed." Emily didn't answer. Because he was right. She had changed. Because someone else reminded her what being alive felt like. Jason didn't push further. He simply returned to scrolling, letting silence eat the air between them. The next day at the office, Emily met Matthew in his private lounge. She told him what happened. He didn't flinch. "Let's stop pretending this is temporary," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I want more. I want you. Not just in secret." Emily's heart raced. She had never considered what this might lead to beyond the thrill. More meant choice, consequences, destruction. But something inside her whispered, "Maybe you deserve more." Jason's suspicion grew. He began checking her phone, quietly following her in his car one day after work. When he saw her stepping out of Matthew's car, adjusting her dress, smiling in that way she hadn't smiled at him in years, it all clicked. He didn't confront her that night. He just watched her sleep. He didn't scream. Didn't rage. Instead, he plotted his silence like a man waiting for the exact moment the dam should break. And it came, on a Saturday morning. They were having breakfast when he placed his fork down and said, "So, how long have you been sleeping with my boss?" Emily dropped her coffee mug. "I saw you, Em," he continued calmly, almost eerily composed. "I followed you." "I know." She didn't deny it. Couldn't. Jason stared at her with a kind of numbness she hadn't seen before. "You could have just left, you know. I didn't want to hurt you," she said, barely above a whisper. "You already did." Chapter 7: The Fallout. The next few days were a blur. Jason moved into the guest room. He barely spoke. Emily tried to explain, to justify, to cry. But he had gone cold. Matthew, meanwhile, was pushing harder. "Come with me," he said one night at his apartment. "We can move to Denver. I've already started looking at properties. I want a life with you." But Emily wasn't ready. Everything was unraveling. Her marriage. Her peace. Her sense of self. She stood between two men, one who had ignored her into emptiness, and one who had ignited a fire that might burn everything down. She took time off from work. She needed space. Alone in the house, she began thinking not just about what she wanted, but who she had become. Chapter 8: The Choice. Weeks passed. Jason filed for separation. Matthew waited. Emily met with a therapist. She cried through every session. She talked about how she lost herself after her miscarriage 2 years ago, how Jason withdrew emotionally and never returned. How the affair wasn't about lust, it was about being seen again. And how she still didn't know if what she had with Matthew was real, or just a symptom of her loneliness. One afternoon, she called Matthew to meet for coffee. He showed up in a crisp suit, smiling like always. "I'm ready to leave," he said before she even spoke. "Tell me you are too." But Emily shook her head. "I can't go with you," she said. "Not because I don't care, but because I need to learn who I am without either of you." Matthew blinked, stunned. "You're choosing no one?" "I'm choosing me." 6 months later, Emily signed her divorce papers. Jason didn't say much, just a quiet goodbye and a soft wish for peace. She moved into a small apartment near the lake. Started working independently, organizing events on her own. She joined a book club, made new friends, and slowly, started forgiving herself. She never returned to Matthew. He emailed once, then disappeared from her life entirely. But sometimes, on walks by the lake, she'd think of them both, not with anger, but with understanding. She had loved. She had hurt. She had been hurt. But she had also grown. In the mirror, she no longer saw a wife or a mistress. She saw a woman who had learned the hardest way that love doesn't live in validation. It lives in knowing yourself first. And for Emily, that was the beginning of everything new. The end.